Welcome back to the peaceful haven of still mind Dharma.
Dear friend, have you ever found yourself amidst a vast sea of people, surrounded by the loud and vibrant noises of the city, only to realize that your heart is profoundly empty? We are living inside a colossal paradox of our era. We long for an empathetic embrace. We yearn for someone who can see through the bleeding scratches inside our souls. But when someone gently reaches out, we hastily step back, retreating into our shells of pride and fear. We scream in silence, hoping to be understood. Yet we build impenetrable fortresses with our own hands to hide our fragile vulnerabilities. You are exhausted from carrying perfect personas out there, only to face the most brutal battle when night falls, and you are left alone in your room with the darkness. The greatest enemy of a human life, tragically, does not wait for us with swords and spears beyond the boundaries of broken relationships. That enemy does not wear the face of someone who betrayed us, nor does it take the shape of adversity or the cruel turning of the world's back. The most venomous, the sharpest enemy is residing right in our every breath, every heartbeat, hiding behind the endless streams of thought every night. That enemy is named self-punishment. We easily forgive the mistakes of a stranger. We readily offer a forgiving smile to someone who accidentally steps on our foot on a crowded bus. We willingly say words of pardon to a friend who missed an appointment. Yet we are extremely harsh and merciless to the very being that carries these daily burdens. We sentence ourselves for the mistakes of the past. We drag out the worst memories, the most impulsive decisions, the wounds we intentionally or unintentionally inflicted upon others, and use them to torment ourselves day after day, month after month. We crucify our own souls on the cross of regret, letting old wounds bleed forever over sins that have long faded into the past. There are restless nights when you ask yourself why you uttered such bitter words to your parents back then, why you lost your most beloved person just because of an inflated ego, why you failed so miserably in a career you traded your entire youth for. The words, "if only," "I should have," and "what if," repeat like a sorrowful requiem of the consciousness, swelling into undercurrents that drown every present joy. You are imprisoning yourself in a jail without iron bars, where the warden is the voice of judgment echoing from the very bottom of your heart.
The Buddha compassionately taught that suffering in this world often comes from two arrows. The first arrow represents the incidents, the adversities, the inevitable mistakes that must happen according to the law of cause and effect. That is biological pain, the loss that no human being can avoid. But the second arrow is the one we aim directly at the old wound and shoot with our own hands. It is the reaction of the mind, the torment, the attitude of denial and self-punishment. The first arrow only hurts us once, but the second arrow, which we lodge into our own souls, carries a poison that destroys us for a lifetime. Today, we will embark on the bravest journey a human being can undertake, which is the journey into our own shadows. We will throw open the door to expose the dark corners of self-blame, facing the regrets that gnaw at our conscience. Because a paradoxical truth that few realize is that this agonizing pain is not an abyss meant to bury you. The pain, the self-pity, and even the guilt weighing heavily on your shoulders, when illuminated by the light of self-compassion, become the only and most radiant gateway to lead you into pure spiritual awakening. Only when you learn to embrace the wounded child within can you truly touch boundless freedom. That boundless freedom begins with a concept the Buddhas of ancient times constantly reminded us of: compassion. When hearing the word compassion, our minds often turn their gaze outward. We think about pitying a destitute life, feeling sympathy for a tiny creature, or forgiving someone who has lost their way. But do you realize the bitter paradox that the boundary of compassion almost always stops right at the threshold of your own heart? You have given all your gentleness to the world, but you leave yourself to freeze to death in the storm of self-torment. The Buddha's teaching on awakening does not demand that you become a selfless saint saving the world, but the very first lesson is to return and light a warming fire for yourself. Compassion for oneself is not indulgence in wrongdoings, nor is it weak passivity. It is the most silent yet resilient inner strength, the ability to look at yourself with all your rough scars and muddy mistakes and quietly whisper that you too deserve to be loved like any other being on this earth. Look deeply into the flow of the law of impermanence. Impermanence is not merely the withering of a flower or the shifting of the four seasons. Impermanence exists right in every microsecond of consciousness and within your very being. The person who made a mistake 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or even yesterday is truly no longer the you who is breathing at this exact moment. The river of yesterday has rolled its old waters toward the ocean, and the you of the past has slipped away into oblivion. Why do you use the sharp knife of the present to stab the phantom of a person who no longer exists? When you constantly resent the impulsiveness of your youth, denying your past ignorance, you are resisting the natural operation of the universe. The child of yesterday acted based on all they knew, all the scarce mental resources they had at the time. Instead of the lash of torment, that child needs a hug, needs the present you, with your maturity and groundedness, to return, soothe, and say that everything will be all right.
Many of us carry a distorted belief about the law of karma. We view karma as a brutal death sentence, an eternal, indelible punishment for the sins we have sown. However, under the visionary gaze of Buddhism, karma is simply a great teacher, a law of interdependent origination for the soul to experience and evolve. Perpetual self-torment is not the way to repay karmic debts. In truth, it is planting a new seed of suffering right into the soil of the present moment. Have you ever gazed at a lotus flower rising from the dark mud? The mud is dirty and foul-smelling, but without that impure layer, how could the lotus extract the essence to bloom into pure petals, offering its fragrance to life? The mistakes, the foolishness, the tangled wounds you caused or suffered in the past are the sacred dark mud nourishing your awakening today. If you reject the mud, if you despise the mud, the Bodhi seed in your heart will forever sleep. Accepting mistakes does not mean colluding with evil. It is seeing through the lesson behind adversity to transform pain into the substance of love. Whenever guilty memories come rushing back, whenever the voice of judgment rings shrilly in your head, condemning you as a terrible person, a failure, please remember the philosophy of emptiness. These remorseful thoughts, where do they ultimately come from, and where will they go? They have no form, no physical entity. They are merely illusions woven from the fears and attachments of the ego. They are like wisps of agarwood smoke, faintly intertwining in the void. No matter how thick the smoke gets, even if it obscures the vision, the nature of space remains a vast emptiness that cannot be tainted. The core of your soul is the same, as pure and tranquil as the bright moon high above,
never stained by the gloomy clouds of the mind. You are not your guilty thoughts. You are the vast space that encompasses those thoughts. Upon realizing this truth, you will no longer struggle with torments. You only need to step back, quietly observing those thoughts appear and then vanish, like watching yellow leaves gently falling onto a perfectly still lake, without a single ripple of judgment.
The journey of cultivating self-compassion is a delicate art of living. It is when you learn to befriend yourself amidst countless storms. Whenever you mess something up, instead of uttering careless insults, try placing a hand over your heart, feeling the warmth and a pulsating heartbeat maintaining your life, and softly say, "It's okay. I know you are tired and you did your best." Treat your dark corners, your inner shadows, with the softness of water. Water cannot cut swords, cannot confront boulders with hardness, but water inclusively embraces all things, seeping through every narrow crevice, and over the years, water can wear down even the sharpest rocks. Compassion is the same. It is the sole antidote for self-condemning resentments, gently washing away the sticky sorrows of countless lifetimes. Letting go of self-punishment is the very moment you release a little bird that has been locked too long in the cage of regret, allowing it to spread its wings and soar high into the deep blue sky of liberation. To perceive the miraculous nature of self-compassion more clearly, let us quiet down for a moment, to drift back to a distant memory, listening to the tale of a traveler carrying on his back a sack of regretful ashes. Legend has it that in an ancient temple perched on a misty mountain peak, there lived a young novice monk. One windy night, due to his own carelessness, the novice accidentally knocked over a candle, burning down the entire library, holding centuries-old palm leaf scriptures. The fire was extinguished that night, and neither the master nor the fellow monks uttered a word of blame. They simply cleaned up the ruins together in silence. However, the fire within the novice's heart began to blaze, incinerating all the peace in his soul.
He sentenced himself to the most brutal punishment. He gathered all the ashes from the half-burnt scriptures, stuffed them into a large sack, and tied it tightly to his back. He swore to carry that massive weight for the rest of his life as a way to atone for his sins. He refused to sleep on a soft bamboo bed, refused bowls of fragrant white rice, eating only roots and sleeping on rocks. Every step he took was heavy, his back hunched, his eyes dull and devoid of light. He believed that as long as he suffered, as long as his shoulders bled from the sack's friction, his past sins might be somewhat repaid. He had built an invisible prison with his own hands, voluntarily becoming an inmate serving a life sentence. Many exhausting years passed, and the once young novice was now as emaciated as a ghost. The sack of ashes, heavy with sweat and tears, hardened like a boulder crushing his chest. Unable to endure the inner tearing any longer, he decided to leave the temple, wandering deep into isolated mountains to find an anonymous Zen master, hoping to find a method of liberation, or at least a more fitting punishment to end this cycle of torment.
After countless hardships, he found the Zen master sitting in meditation by a perfectly still lake, as clear as a mirror reflecting the sky. The novice fell to his knees on the cold ground, the sack on his back dragging his frail body forward. Amidst choked sobs, he recounted the story of the fire years ago, of the priceless scriptures turned to dust, and of this cruel sack. He bowed his head to the earth, desperately pleading, "Master, I am a cursed sinner. My sins are too great. My soul is irreparably stained. Please grant me the heaviest punishment. Please beat me, exile me, so that I may pay the price for my ignorance." The old Zen master slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was as benevolent and tranquil as the silent lake. He did not hand down any punishment, nor did he offer a lecture. He merely pointed his finger towards an ancient pine tree standing precariously on the edge of a deserted cliff. "Look at that pine branch," the master spoke in a deep, warm voice that resonated with the falling dew. Last winter, a terrifying blizzard snapped its thickest, strongest branch. That branch used to be its pride, a shelter for countless birds. But look closely. Did that tree spend this entire spring weeping sap for the fallen branch, or is it pouring all its nutrients into sprouting new buds?
The novice looked up in shock. The Zen master gently touched the sack of stone-like ashes on the young man's back, speaking slowly. "The scriptures burned to ashes. That is the law of creation, existence, decay, and emptiness. Fire burns due to conditions. Fire dies due to conditions. But you are using your own arrogant ego to cling to a fire that died many years ago. You carry this pile of ashes on your back and delude yourself into thinking that is taking responsibility. But the truth is, you are running away from the present. You secretly think your sins are so monumental, so grand, that even the boundless compassion of heaven and earth cannot contain them. By refusing to let go of this sack, you are actually denying the right to be healed of the very living being thirsting for life within you." The Zen master's words were like an awakening bell bursting into the silent space, piercing the thick fog that had shrouded the novice's mind for so long. With trembling, calloused, and scratched hands, he untied the knot of the sack. The moment the sack opened, he poured it all into the lake. Thick, black layers of ashes, representing the regrets, self-blame, and torment of many years, cascaded into the water. The surface of the lake softly rippled into a few small circles, catching the ashes, and then slowly dissolving them into the deep abyss. The water remained crystal clear, the lake remained perfectly still, and all things remained as serene as they were meant to be. The sky did not collapse because of those ashes, and the lake did not turn muddy.
For the first time in all those years, the young novice stood up straight. He stretched his shoulders, breathing in the fresh life force of the mountain forest. Tears streamed down his face, but they were no longer tears of humiliation. They were tears of liberation. He suddenly realized the prison door had never been locked all this time. The only padlock was his stubborn refusal to forgive himself. The very moment he let go and set the ashes adrift, the sky of freedom opened up, vast and infinite. Taking off the ash sack of the past is not just the story of a novice monk in the deep mountains. It is the practical test for each of us in the rush of life. At the crossroads of making a living, of love and family, how many times do you hoist invisible boulders of self-blame onto your own shoulders? You torment yourself over an unfinished project, a broken romance, over bitter prejudices that people lazily assign to you, which you suddenly take all upon yourself. Practicing self-compassion is not an instant magic spell that wipes away all memories, but a patient, gentle journey of untying every knot in your soul. The answer to this problem always lies in the present, right within the deep breath you are maintaining.
Whenever the storm of self-torment strikes, when the voice of judgment rises thorny in your head, our natural reflex is to panic, run away, and resist. But today, try a different approach, the approach of the wise when facing impermanence. Stop everything you are doing, find a quiet little corner, close your eyes, and simply anchor yourself in your breath. Allow the pain, the regret, and even your darkest corners the right to surface in your consciousness. Do not chase them away, do not deny them, and do not join them in cursing yourself. Play the role of a tranquil observer, standing on the riverbank, watching the rapid currents of the mind. Acknowledge the pain as a natural phenomenon, telling yourself, the storm of torment is here again, and it will pass. Everything in this world, even the most bitter self-blame, follows the ceaseless law of birth and death. The next step in the journey of inner transformation is to bravely engage in a dialogue with the darkness within you. The heavily wounded child deep within your soul has strained for too long under perfect masks. When you are alone, wrap your arms around your own shoulders, a genuine, tight, and warm hug. Whisper into the space the words you have always longed to hear from someone else out there. Say that I see your pain. I know you are exhausted from bearing these wounds. I forgive your ignorance in the past, and from now on, I will be here to protect and love you completely. You know, our consciousness is incredibly magical. When you send out the vibrations of sincere forgiveness, the energetic blocks accumulated over the years will gradually melt away, returning to you an inner space that is clear and expansive. Once you have learned to love your own rough scars, you will find that the prejudices out there suddenly become harmless. There will still be people who judge you. There will be those who drag up your past to slander you. There will be skeptical eyes glaring straight at your efforts. But right now, your mind is as steady as Mount Meru. You thoroughly understand that the words of others are usually a mirror reflecting their own fractured inner selves, not a measuring tape for the value of your life. You do not need to justify yourself. You do not need to strain your neck to prove you are innocent or have changed. Silent tranquility, a serene smile, and a heart forgiving of itself are the most majestic answers, shattering all surrounding storms. Just live proudly, walk leisurely, because you know who you are and what you have gone through to stand firmly in the present moment. This life is inherently full of hardships. Why must we inflict more suffering on ourselves with poisoned arrows aimed at our hearts by our own hands? Right at this moment, in the silent space of invisible connection, is there any sorrow making your heart heavy because it remains misunderstood? Is there any torment, any past mistake that you still cannot forgive yourself for? Please leave a few lines in the comment section as a way to bare your soul, as a ritual of shedding the ash sack into the deep lake. Writing it down is a brave act of confronting it, and it is also a way of sending your sorrows into the wind to be blown away.
The journey we have just walked together is not a magic trick to erase the past, but a profound awakening to see ourselves anew. The root of all ultimate suffering, as the Buddha taught, has never come from the cruelty of the outside world, but it is always deeply planted in the way we torment ourselves and deny our own right to be happy. Remember, you cannot pour water from an empty pitcher, and you cannot give genuine love to humanity if inside you there are only fragments of self-judgment. The shadows of old mistakes were not born to bury you. They are the most sacred mud from which the flower of compassion and wisdom reaches up to bloom. Starting from this moment, please drop the sword of torment, gently touch your heart, and allow yourself to bathe in the light of boundless forgiveness. If these tranquil sounds have just gently touched a bleeding corner in your soul, bringing you a sigh of relief amidst the bustling stream of life, then please leave a karmic connection here. Please hit the subscribe button and accompany Still Mind Dharma not just as a mindless tap on a screen, but as a silent promise to the fragile being inside you that from now on we will practice returning, embracing, and healing ourselves together. Every presence of yours, every like,
or every silent share sent into this space is a tiny yet resilient lantern, helping to illuminate the path back to awakening for countless souls still lost in the deep night. May your footsteps on the myriad paths of life always be steady and calm, and may your heart forever be a sky of serenity, vast and overflowing with light.